Chapter 18, The Tunnels of the Backways. Why you should never trust the back tunnels of Level 59. I stood on the dark orange-colored stone platform as the double doors slammed shut behind me, the loud slam echoing down the tunnel before vanishing into the distance. Holy shit, I said as I stared at the tunnel in awe. Large mining system-style lights at the bowl-shaped top lined the top of the ceiling. The lighting and supports being held up by a maze of massive steel pipes and panels. My eyes explored the tunnel system, admiring the dark orange stone and the smooth platforms that made up the tunnel. My nose scrunched up as the overpowering scent of rotting metal, decaying wood, mold, and rotting flesh filled the air. I choked back vomit as I took a step back. The overpowering odors telling me I shouldn't be here. This place reeks of death and decay, I said as my eyes ran along the rusting metal tracks that stretched into the distance. The air was close to freezing and some areas felt warmer and colder than others. It all feels off, I said as I began to turn around, wanting to leave as an overpowering weight of fear and uneasiness began to crush down on me. I now realized why the hounds ran away. I grabbed the door handle and pulled, my heart and hope sinking as the door jammed before closing again. It's jammed, I choked as I stared through the glass window. The smell of death slowly trickled in the area around me as I focused on the door. Paranoia and panic rose as I shook the door handles frantically. Let me out! I don't want to be here! I screamed as my voice quickly traveled down the warmly lit tunnels behind me. My fingers slipped off of the door handles as the feeling of sadness crashed down on me. Please, I said softly as I stared through the small square window at the mess of wooden boards on the floor. The boards I had removed to see what was behind these very doors. How did it even get jammed? I said angrily as I kicked the steel door hard, wincing as pain shot up my leg. It was working perfectly fine just a moment or so ago, I said as I peered through the window at the handles on the other side. The locking mechanism on the other side was loose, having broken when the door slammed shut. Stupid door, I muttered as I turned to face the seemingly infinite tunnel ahead. My heart began to race as I spotted an entity I had never seen before. The creature had the appearance and figure of a human, and appeared to be aimlessly wandering around about 40 feet from where I stood. It was tall, and seemed to take the appearance of some sort of SCP. Its skin was pale and a sickly yellow, and its eyes were white and sunken in. Its skin seemed to be covered with millions of microscopic bumps. What the hell is that thing? I said as I watched it wander aimlessly near the far wall. The subtle sound of humming reached my ears, causing me to look around. I grew nervous before staring at the mysterious tall humanoid creature again. Is that thing making that noise? Is that a human that got stuck here? My eyes darted around the tunnel, scanning for any other threats before I decided to get more information on this creature. It looks like it's not angry at me, yet, I said nervously as I watched it slowly wander closer, not seeing me yet as it hummed and whistled randomly. I watched as the loud sounds of trains blasted through the tunnel, a large gust of wind crashing into me, knocking me back into the doors and onto the ground. I groaned in pain as the creature looked around, trying to find the location of the deafening slam my body gave off when I hit the door. I waited a minute to settle the pain that was shooting through every nerve in my body before getting to my feet. The tall, humanoid-like creature had locked its eyes in my direction, making a chilling clicking noise before rushing at me. Shit, I said as I darted right, trying to go the other direction. The sounds of humming and whistling continued to echo off the walls as the creature quickly gained on me. The smell of death and rotting skin filled the air as my feet slapped the dark orange rock platform, the sounds of my footfalls echoing through the tunnels. The pale yellow creature had began to quickly close the gap as it ran at top speeds of miles. Sorry, I made it 5 minutes in before stuttering. Let's go. New record. The pale yellow creature began to Let's read it slowly, guys. This is like when you read at school and everyone's eyes are on you, but I'm doing this at 11 o'clock at night running off of 2 monsters and 3 chapters being recorded in the past hour. The pale yellow creature began to quickly close the gap as it ran at a top speed of 7 miles per hour in my direction. There we go. I sprinted as fast as I could down the tunnel, occasionally looking back as the creature continued to gain ground. It's too fast, I said as I realized it would catch me before I could lose it. I glanced over the tracks and began running left, my breath catching in my throat as I spotted a pack of 4 hounds in the distance. I looked behind me to see the skin creature was still chasing me, its eyes locked on its current target. If I can get the hounds to attack it or something, I said as I returned my gaze to the pack of hounds in the distance. Hey, dog freaks! I cried as I waved my arms in the air. 2 of the hounds immediately began barking as the... Two of the hounds immediately began barking as the pack of 4 charged at me from the front. I listened as the skin stealer seemed to wail in anguish, still maintaining its speed as it pursued me from behind. I darted to the right, just barely avoiding the first hound as it skidded to a stop in front of the skin stealer. It snarled before scrambling away from the deadlier creature, running in front of it as it continued to chase me. I darted left, barely avoiding another hound as it jumped at me, kicking off the ground as it swiftly changed directions. My heart raced as I watched the last 2 hounds charging at me from 2 different sides. I took a deep breath and charged, diving like a baseball player to the home plate as the 2 hounds leapt forwards, one of them yelping as it hit the ground rolling as the other one hit the skin stealer, causing it to wail loudly. I quickly got to my feet and began running as fast as I could away. The sounds of anguish and corrupt humming mixed with the yelps, snarls, and growls as the skin stealer quickly made its way through the 4 hounds. I glanced behind me, watching with horror as the tall, pale yellow creature tore the skin from the hounds' bodies and placed it on its own. Vomit rose up in my throat as I gagged, slowing to a stop before throwing up on the orange stone rocks below. I choked back tears as the smell of vomit mixed with the smell of death. As the smell of vomit mixed with the smell of death filled my nose. There we go. I watched as the skin stealer dropped the last flesh-covered corpse to the ground, placing the final shred of the hound's skin on its body before it locked eyes with me. I froze, waiting for it to attack, but it just turned around and aimlessly shambled away. I wiped the vomit from my lips and stared at the 4 shredded bodies of the hounds with shock. Fuck! Oh my god. Is that what that thing would have done to me if I didn't do what I did? I said with mass amounts of fear and disgust filling my voice. I felt more vomit rise in my chest and turned away, leaving the 4 rotting piles of flesh and bluish-black blood to decay in the tunnels on its own. Aren't the hound thingies, aren't they a creature in this place? They're a creature of this place. They're not a home thing. They're creatures of this place, I said as millions of questions began pouring into my thoughts. Glanced at the 4 corpses one last time before speed-walking straight forwards, wanting to leave this tunnel as soon as I possibly could. The creatures stole the skin off of those hounds while they were still alive, I said, shock and fear still filling my voice and body language. I glanced around nervously as the constant stench of rot and decay began to make me sick to my stomach again. I took a deep breath in, trying to calm down a bit as the overwhelming sense of isolation and danger filled my entire being. I looked around before beginning to walk again, the dark orange rock walls becoming an orange blur as I zoned out over time. I had to clear my throat, sorry. The sounds of water dripping from up high began echoing down the tunnel as overwhelming anxiety began filling my emotions. Water? I said as I began to walk faster. The idea that there was drinkable water somewhere gave me hope of survival. I swallowed, trying to keep my throat from going completely dry as I grew even more dehydrated. I'd gone at least 4 or 5 hours without water, having escaped the death rats on the previous level sections, and having to run away from the hounds had made me increasingly dehydrated. I began to run, the sounds of my feet hitting the uneven solid ground echoing down the tunnel and into the distance. The smell of mildew and rotted log wood filled the air as I began to slow down. Okay, we got 3 pages left. There's water up there, I said as I looked at the puddle in front of me before staring up at the ceiling. A steady dripping water source that seeped through the rock and began dripping into this tunnel system. I need to go up, I said as I ran through the puddle in front of me, soaking the lower cuffs of my jeans and the top of my gym shoes as the water splashed outwards whilst I disrupted the piece of the puddle for what was ahead. Man, that was a mouthful. The sounds of dripping water continued to echo down the tunnel as I ran as fast as I could. My eyes fell on a skin stealer up ahead, causing me to slow down. Shit. I don't see a door or a hiding space either, I said as I began to slowly creep forward. The skin stealer clicked as it looked around, aimlessly wandering to the left before emitting a loud humming noise that echoed through the tunnel. I have to go past it, I said nervously as I continued to slowly make my way towards the skin stealer that lied just up ahead. I took a deep breath before cautiously walking as slowly and quietly as I could. Maybe it doesn't see me as a threat right now, I said quietly as I stared at the skin stealer in front of me. The 30-foot gap between me and the skin stealer slowly became a 20-foot gap. I froze as the skin stealer turned slightly, facing the wall to my left as it hummed loudly. It went silent before aimlessly wandering over to the wall, making another series of clicks. The smell of water began to mix with the stench of rotting skin as I began to feel the overwhelming sense of danger the skin stealer gave off, causing my breathing to waver. I stumbled as I lost my footing and fell to the ground. The skin stealer wailed loudly before turning to face me. Shit, I said as I scrambled to my feet, readjusting my backpack as I kicked off, angering the skin stealer as I sprinted away from it. It wailed loudly before charging at me, quickly gaining as it clicked and hummed. 7 miles per hour versus my 8 or 9 was unimaginable speeds that allowed it to catch up. Sorry, I lost my spot. The sounds of my footsteps on the uneven rock echoed down the tunnel as I ran as fast as I could. My head spun as I began to run low on energy, my body being starved and extremely dehydrated as I failed to tend to my food and liquid situation. My throat went dry as I glanced behind me, the skin stealer just being a few feet away as it clicked and wailed. Its sunken white eyes were locked on me as it ran in a way similar to a human, but it seemed clumsy with its movement, like it didn't know how to act like a human when it looked slightly like one. I took a deep breath and leaned forwards, allowing me to run faster slightly. It is 11:30 at night. I'm running off 2 monsters, just so you know. I took a deep breath and leaned forwards, allowing me to run faster as the smell of water, damaged wood, and rusting metal became overpowering. This place is fucking huge, I said as my breathing grew more and more uneven. My foot slipped as my shoes slid on the rocks, the water from above soaking the ground even more and more as I progressed. I cried out before stumbling forwards, the skin stealer grazing my back as its hand brushed against the back of my supply bag. My feet slid as I struggled to maintain my speed on the wet rocks before I got back my balance. I glanced behind me to see the skin stealer click angrily as it slid on the water before coming to a stop. I smiled to myself before losing my footing, my shoes losing traction as I slid uncontrollably on the wet rocks below. My heart rate soared as I fell forwards, rolling over the wet rocks after crashing on the ground before slamming into a dip in the ground hard. The wind was knocked from my lungs as I came to a rough stop on the uneven ground, gasping for air as bruises began forming all over my sides and arms. Ow, shit, I groaned as I slowly rolled on my stomach. My head pounded as I looked up at what was in front of me. With all the attention I had kept on the skin stealer, I had almost missed a stairwell leading upwards. That has to be my way out, I grunted as I slowly got to my feet. My arms were covered in water and small cuts and bruises from the fall. My hips and waist were covered in bruises as well. I slowly limped over to the staircase and hesitated as the overpowering sense of danger filled my mind. Shit, I have to. This is the only stairwell up to where the water is, I said to myself as I began limping over to the stairwell again. The overpowering stench of waterlogged metal and wood hit me like a truck as I hesitated again. This is the only way to get to the water, I mumbled as I tried to convince myself that it was okay, ignoring the overwhelming sense of paranoia that was consuming me. Little did I know my sanity was decreasing rapidly over the levels I was going through. Well, it's now or never, I said as I glanced over my shoulder at the skin stealer behind me. It wailed like it was in pain as it kept its eyes on me, not being able to make its way over the slippery, uneven rocks in front of it. I took a step forwards before limping up the staircase, hoping to find the source of water as a blanket of paranoia fell down around me, worsening my physical and mental state as I had reached the top of the staircase. Fuck. I'm gonna pass, I moaned in pain as my head spun furiously, causing me to lose control of my body as it went limp. I had run out of energy, completely dehydrated, running off of a few hours of sleep in the past 2 days, and barely any food. I hit the water-covered ground with a splash as I fell unconscious in the waterlogged station, my body laying in the dark as the sound of water became the only sounds around me. I inhaled one last time of fresh oxygen before everything went dark.